What's up guys, it's Mr. Cruz. In this video I'm going to teach you guys how to use flat.io, Flat.io. And flat.io is basically the word processor for music notation. So we have Microsoft Word for writing our reports, our English reports and essays and stuff. Well, we have flat.io for making music, sheet music. So first thing we need to do is you need to sign up for flat.io. Use your school email address, your MyMail or a Gmail account. What's good about using a Gmail account is that if we do ever have to bridge this with Google Classroom or Schoology, this is ready to go. So I highly recommend you use your MyMail or your Gmail account. But if you don't want to do that, that's fine. Use any kind of email address. So go to flat.io, not this website up here. This is different. Go to flat.io and sign up for an account. As soon as you got your flat.io account, you're going to need to download the Advanced Orchestra Treble Clef PDF, because what you're going to do is you're going to put all this, you're going to create all this music right here and put this on flat.io, and I'll walk you through it. We'll do this one note at a time, one piece or one symbol at a time. So once you're signed into flat.io, it might look a little bit different than this because this is mine and it's kind of like the teacher's edition. You're going to want to find My Library. Click on that. And then you're going to want to find the new score or new tab button. Okay. So again, I have the teacher's edition, it seems. So find new score or new tab. Okay. And I find that under My Library. So let's do that right now. Because this is an assignment, you do need to put your name on it. So just put your name on it for where it says new private score. Put your name on it. I'm going to put mine. And then I'm just going to call this Treble Clef Orchestra. And then hit continue. After you title your song with your name, you need to put an instrument. So this one's going to be for violin, treble clef instruments in Advanced Orchestra. So I'm going to go to strings here, click that, and then here are your string instruments. Find violin, click the plus sign. All right, and then violin shows up on the right. If you want to add, other instruments to the mix, you can keep hitting the plus sign. All right, and then you can write for an orchestra if you like. Now, since I don't need these, I'm just going to hit minus so that these don't show up in my editor. You can also hit string ensemble. That will throw in all the string instruments all at once, but we don't need that. So violin, click this plus sign. It shows up on the right. Okay, and then we're going to hit create. All right, so here we go. This is the flat.io interface. So you should have this, and you should have a copy of the sheet music, the PDF that's provided to you. So let's look through flat.io. We have up here where my mouse is, notes, articulation, ornaments, dynamic. These are your tool menus. This is like a tool menu bar. So whenever we need to access these things, whatever's under notes, we go here. And by the way, if you have kind of a narrow monitor or you have a small screen, okay, I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. Okay, you'll notice that you have this document tab or document tools. Okay, and your document tools, all right, are going to be your undo and redo, copy and paste, and how to print and save your work, zoom in, zoom out. Okay, so this is the document tools. Now, because my screen is a little bit wider, my documents don't show, the document tab doesn't show up here. It's all up here already. Okay, so I don't have to worry about hitting the documents tab just to undo or cut and copy and paste or save work. It's always up here. The next menu or set of tools is the note tool or the note menu. Click on that, and this is where you edit your accidentals, like if you want to make something sharp, flat, or natural. Your note values, whole notes, half notes, quarter notes, eighth notes, up to 64th notes. Your dotted notes, okay. Your ties and your triplets. I have a display more section right here. Okay, that's to add other stuff. We won't need that in this menu here. So this is, we're going to be spending a lot of time in the notes section. The next one is articulations. That's going to be your marcatos, your accent, fermata, slurs. Do we want to do pizzicato or arco? Breath mark is your bow lift. Cessuras, your railroad tracks. What else do they have in here? Oh, here we go. Staccatos, tenuto, legato, detached legato. So this is articulation. We're going to be talking about that. Ornaments. We won't be talking about ornaments, but this is where we can put tremolos, trills, glissandos. We're not going to be talking about that. Dynamics. This is your crescendo, diminuendo, and all your dynamic markings. Sforzando, forte piano, rinforzando, pianoforte. We're going to be talking about this. This one's also very important. Your measure menu, your measure tools, how to insert a measure afterwards or before, how to remove. System break, we're going to talk about that. Clefs, how to change clefs, key signatures, time signatures, rehearsal numbers or rehearsal letters, repeat signs, DSL codas, fine, first and second ending, accelerando, ritardando, and then text. The text section is where you can put in lyrics if you're, composing for a choir. We're not going to really do any text. Chords, inserting a chord, and annotations such as, writing stuff into the music that are not stuff that's not lyrics. Okay, so this is the flat.io editing area. I really don't know what it's called, but this is where you're going to do all your work to make the sheet music. Another thing you need to be aware of that's very, 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 very important in flat.io is this teardrop right here. There's a teardrop, okay, or a cursor, okay. If you're not aware of where this teardrop is or the cursor is, and you make changes, like you add notes or flats or sharps, and you're not aware of that, you're going to make mistakes. So it's really important that you're aware of where the cursor is at all times. And you're going to see me walk through one step at a time how to move this cursor and why I move it and the reason why I move the cursor around so that I can edit things. You can move the cursor left and right by just pressing left and right on the arrow keys of your keyboard. So I'm just hitting right and then left. You can also move a note up and down. So I just threw an F in there. If I move my cursor on the F, okay, and I hit my up and down arrows on my keyboard, on my computer keyboard, okay, I can adjust the pitch that way as well. All right, we don't need this note right now. Okay, so that teardrop or raindrop cursor, really, really important. If it's not in the right place and you make an editorial change with any of these menus, you're going to mess something up. Okay. All right, and then let's look at the PDF that I supplied you guys with. You'll notice here that you have this thing called workflow. Anytime you use a music program or any kind of program, okay, you always have your workflow. For example, when you write an essay, what's your workflow? Like if it's a If it's a 5-paragraph essay, you know, your workflow is to outline, okay? Outline your paragraphs, have a quick outline of what you're going to write, then have your supporting sentences and your conclusion or your transitional sentences. All right. Your workflow will depend on what you're going to do. So we also have a workflow in sheet music. When we write in our sheet music, we have a workflow. So this is the way we're going to put all this music. Okay, this is the way we're going to put all this music into flat.io. We're going to take it one concept at a time. We're going to start off first with the beginning, you know, key signatures and time signatures, okay, and then pitches and rhythm. Pitches and rhythm are the two most important concepts we're going to go over in flat.io. We're going to spend the most time on this, okay? So this is your workflow. Your workflow is your organization system for working and making sure that you put out a high quality product or sheet music. If you don't have workflow and you're like, oh yeah, I got to put this bow direction here. Oh yeah, I got to put this accent here. I got to do this. And you know, you're just all over the place. You're going to forget stuff. So you want to break things down one thing at a time. All right, so let's get started. We're going to start first at the very beginning with a key signature and time signature. Okay, so the key signature here is 1 flat. Key signature is 1 flat. So we need to change the key signature here to 1 flat. As you can see, there's no key signature, or the key signature here is no sharps, no flats. So we need to change that. There are 2 ways to change your key signatures. You can put your mouse here, put your mouse right here and click. Okay, this is between the clef and the time signature. Click here and a list of key signatures will appear. Got to click to find it. There we go. Oh no, that's clefs. There we go. So just between the key just between the time signature and the clef, click around there and you can choose the key signature you want. So there we are, is 1 flat. So that's your key signature. The other way to change your key signature, okay, is go to measure, your measure tools, go to key signature right here. That's where these 4 sharps are. Okay, and then you can select the key signature that you want. Okay, and there's 15 key signatures. So let's say you wanted this one with 6 sharps. There you go. Okay, let me go back here, turn it back to 1 flat. Time signature. Okay, again, same thing. You can hover the mouse cursor over the time signature. Okay, and then change it. Okay, so now here I just changed it to 2/4 time. Okay, or 6/8 time. I can also do that in the measure tools. Click on measure. Next, click on time signature. And then click 4/4. And now it's back to 4/4 time. Okay, so now we've got the beginning of this setup. As far as the tempo goes, we don't really need the tempo, okay? But it will show up here anyway. We can talk about tempos later. All right, the biggest part of flat.io is putting in the pitches and the rhythms. Okay, so we're going to take this one thing at a time. As you can see in the PDF, I've put in a variety of note values, okay, such as everything from whole note to 8th note triplets to 16th notes, mixture of 16th notes, dotted 8th note 16ths, dotted notes, 8th rests, and stuff like that. Okay, so hopefully by putting all these notes into flat.io, you get an understanding of how this stuff works. Now I know this video is going to get really long, and so this video is going to get really long. So if you're understanding what to do and how to put these things in, go ahead and fast forward in the video. I've put timestamps in the description below, so you can just scroll and fast forward to those spots that you want to take care of. So like, let's say you understand how to do all these things and you want to do articulations. Well, just fast forward to articulations. Okay, no need to watch the whole thing unless if you know how to figure this out. Okay, so next we got to put in our pitches and our rhythms. Okay, so our first note is a D whole note. So we're going to go to the note menu here, the note tools, click on whole note, Okay, and then we're going to input a D. Now, I like putting the D or the note names, clicking them in to the staff. I like doing that. You can also type the letter in. So if the next note's let's say the next note was a D, I can set my teardrop cursor here, okay, and then press D on my computer keyboard, and then there's another one, E, G. Okay, you can type it in by pressing the letter on the keyboard. The only downside to this is sometimes you're typing the letter in and the note shows up in the wrong octave, and then you have to do another step to adjust that note. So I don't personally like, I personally do not like to type the letter in using my computer keyboard. I just like selecting the note value and clicking the note into the staff. All right, so measure 1, D. Measure 2 is a half note E and an F. So I click my half note here, and then click in the half notes where I want them. Okay. Next measure is G, A, B flat, and C. So I'm going to click quarter note here. All right. And notice that the cursor is always on the next rest or the next measure. Okay. If my cursor is right here, if my cursor or the teardrop is right here and I click quarter note, it changes it to quarter note. You don't want that. Okay. So I'm going to hit undo. The undo is very standard. You can go to the document tab or find it up here, undo, click it once, and it will undo your last move. Or you can do Apple Z or Command Z on the Mac or Control Z on the PC or Chromebooks, and it will also undo. Okay, so if I want to put a G quarter note next, okay, I got to make sure that my cursor is over here first. So I move my cursor over here, hit quarter note, and put my notes in. These are all going to be quarter notes, so G. I want to put my A here. So the teardrop is on this one. Put the A here. B flat. And it's already automatically B flat because of the key signature, 1 flat. And then C. Okay. Now you'll notice that on my document here, I have 3 measures in the first line. As a matter of fact, in music, a line of music is actually called a system. Okay, so I want measure 4 over here to be in the next line over, the next line down. So I'm going to select with the teardrop, cursor. I'm going to select this, go to measure, and then I'm going to click on system break, and this is going to put measure 4 into the next line. If I don't do that, measure 4, it just keeps adding measures to the end of the line or the end of the system. So when we're trying to match this, you want to do what's called system breaks. So we're going to do a system break every 3 measures. Okay, so now we got measure 4 down here in the bottom. There, we got to start putting our 8th notes down. So next one is an 8th note, D. Make sure that before you select a note value up here, that the teardrop is over the measure that you want to start editing. So I'm going to select 8th note and click D here, high D, and then C. Okay. Before I select 16th notes to put these 4 16th notes in to flat.io, I make sure that my teardrop is over on the rest, on the next section that I want to put notes on, and I click 16th notes. Okay. If you're not seeing this, that means you're not in the notes tab. Okay, so 16th notes, and let me put B flat A G F. B flat A G F. This is already B flat because of the key signature, 1 flat, B flats. Next, I want quarter notes. I make sure my cursor is not underneath one of these notes. The teardrop is not underneath one of these notes. Okay. Quarter note, E, and then over here we have C sharp. Okay, now that's not coming out as C sharp, that's a C natural. Okay, so how do we change this C to a C sharp? You take your teardrop water droplet icon here, move it over to the C, and then under the notes tools, click sharp. And now that's C sharp. Okay. And next we need to put a whole note D in the next measure. Okay. If I click whole note right now, that's going to mess up this C sharp. So let me move the teardrop cursor to the next measure. And when I hit whole note, I'm allowed to put a whole note next, D. Okay. Again, just notes and rhythms. Don't worry about repeats right now or any of the other symbols. Next measure, eighth note and 2/16. Okay, so my teardrop cursor is in the next measure. Let me put an eighth note D. 2/16 notes, E and F. Click the 16th note up here, E, F. Next note is a G quarter note. Make sure the cursor is always moving over to the right, G. The next three notes, A and B flat 16th notes. So let me click 16th notes. Make sure my cursor's not underneath one of these notes here. Okay. So I make my cursor or my teardrop is over the rest, underneath the rest. So I'm going to put 16th notes, A and B flat. This is automatically B flat because of the key signature. Next is eighth notes. Before I click eighth notes, I make sure that my cursor has moved over to the right underneath the rest. C sharp. Now that came out as a C. We need to make that C sharp. So I'll move the cursor over to the left. In my note tools, click sharp, and now I have C sharp. I want to edit this rest, so I move the teardrop over, and then I'm going to make this a D. Okay, so that's measure 6. My teardrop is on measure 7 already. I need to move measure 7 down, so I need to do another system break. So I go to measure, click system break. Okay. Our next notes are going to be these eighth note triplets. Okay, so a few steps involved to putting eighth note triplets in. Click eighth note. Put your first eighth note triplet in. That's going to be a D. All right. Move the cursor back to D. And then you're going to hit the tuplet tool over here. So the tuplet tool is under notes. And the tuplet icon right here, that's a 3 with these brackets. Click that and then go over here to the left to where the 3 is. And now you're set up to put all 3 eighth notes in. Okay, so I'll move my cursor over, click on eighth note, C, and then B flat. This is, by the way, C sharp. Highlight that C with the teardrop tool or teardrop cursor and click sharp. And now that's C sharp. This one's B flat already because of the key signature, B flat. And moving on. We got to put these other set of triplets in. This A. Okay. We need to make eighth note triplets here, so I'm going to move my cursor over here to the A. Select the tuplet tool, click it, and then click the 3. Now I'm ready to put the next 2 eighth note triplets. So after A is G, and after G is F. So there are your eighth note triplets here. The next 2 notes is a quarter note E and a quarter note F. So I'm going to click quarter note here, quarter note E, quarter note F. That measure's done. The next measure is dotted quarter note followed by eighth note. We gotta set up 2 of these. Okay, so I'm gonna do this. Put in a D. Again, my cursor, my teardrop cursor, is over the section that I want to change. So I'm gonna put D here. And then, because I need to make this a dotted note, a dotted quarter note, move my cursor over to the D. Okay, go to the dot and go single dot, not double dots, single dot. Okay, next I want to put an eighth note here where the eighth rest is. So I'm going to move the cursor over, select an eighth note, and then put in an E. The next note is an F natural to a G, F natural to G. So I'm going to make sure my cursor's in the right spot, click on quarter note, and punch into F. This F needs to be a dotted quarter note. Okay, so put the cursor, the teardrop cursor underneath the F, go to the dot, and that's how you put the dot in. Okay, and then over here, we want to put an eighth note G. Click your eighth note up here, and then click G in the staff. Now, if you make a mistake, let's see here. Let's say you make a mistake. You're trying to put an eighth note G, but your hand slips and you accidentally put an E. You can put the teardrop cursor underneath the wrong note and then move the note up and down to the right location. So that's this G right here. All right, next measure right here are just 4 quarter notes: A, B natural, C sharp, and D. So I'm going to move my cursor over to the next measure, hit quarter note, A, B, actually B natural. So I'm going to move the cursor back, make sure I'm in my notes section, and hit natural. And there you go, that's B natural now. Without that natural sign, it's technically still B flat. Next note, C sharp. Again, I want my teardrop cursor to be underneath the C, and then hit sharp to make that C sharp. And then the last note is a D. Okay. Measure 10 is showing up over here. So since I already got part of measure 10 selected with the teardrop cursor, I'm going to go to measure and then go to system break. Okay, it's really important that that teardrop is under measure 10. If it were under some of the notes in measure 9, it would have done a system break at the end of measure 8 and put measure 9 on the bottom here. Okay, but because the cursor was at measure 10 and I did a system break, only measure 10 goes down. Okay, so we're almost done. 3 quarter notes in a row here: D, C, and B flat. Let's go to note, click quarter note, and punch them in: D, C, B flat. Forgot one thing. We have a time signature change. This is in 3/4 time. Okay, we have a time signature change in 3/4 time. So I'm going to move my cursor over here. Okay. The teardrop is in the beginning of measure 10. I'm going to go to the measure tool, go to the time signature, and click 3/4. Now we are in 3/4 time. Okay. Now, if you're looking at the PDF that I provided, this 3/4 shows up on the right side. Don't worry about that not showing up over here. Okay. The other program that I use puts in a courtesy time signature reminder at the end of the staff. Flat.io is not going to do that. Okay, so we have our new time signature. We have a time signature change to 3/4 at measure 10. Okay. Now, it seems I've run out of measures. Okay, so if that does happen to you, you're going to go to your measure tools, and then you're going to do insert measure after this cursor right here. All right, and it adds another measure. We actually need to add 1, 2, 3 more measures. So I'm going to click on this plus sign, insert measure after. And now we have the rest of the song laid out. Okay, move my cursor over to measure 11. Okay, notice my teardrop cursor is under measure 11. That means when I change anything up here, this gets changed and nothing else. We need to put in a dotted eighth note. So I'm going to click eighth note first. That's A. But I want that A, eighth note, to be a dotted eighth note. So I'm going to move my teardrop over to the A, go to the dot, click on single dot, and then it changes that to a dotted eighth note A. Over here, we need to put a 16th note G. So click the 16th, click in the G, and it automatically beams it. Next note is an F, dotted eighth note F. So I'm going to go here, eighth note, click in the F, move the cursor over to the F, the teardrop cursor is underneath the F, and then go to the dot. And now my F is a dotted eighth note F, just like this one over here. Move my cursor over to the 16th rest. I want to put a 16th note E flat here. So I'm going to click 16th note, and there's my E flat. After the E flat is a quarter note D. Okay, I'm going to make sure that my cursor is in front of this rest over here. Click quarter note, and then I can insert a D here. Almost done. We have D, F, A, eighth notes separated by eighth rests each. Okay, so I'm going to click eighth note over here. Okay, and then put in a D. Here's my eighth rest already. There's no need to put in an eighth rest. Okay, move the cursor over. This is going to become eighth notes. So click eighth note and insert F. Okay, the cursor moves over. It already automatically adds this eighth rest. Don't need to do that. Move the cursor or the teardrop over to the right. Okay, and then select eighth note and then put in an A. So now that's D, F, A. Okay, and then the last note of the song, which is a quarter note D on beat 1. So I'm going to put my cursor over here on this quarter note. Click on quarter note, and then there's high D there. So that is how to put in all the notes and the rhythms in for this segment. The next thing we need to start doing is putting the other stuff in, okay, such as repeats. Okay, we have a repeat sign here at measure 4 and at the end of measure 5. Okay, so again, if we want to affect something, all right, we need to move this teardrop cursor. Okay, and we're going to put it right here in measure 4. Okay, move the cursor, the teardrop cursor to measure 4. Go to your measure tool and then hit the left repeat. We want to have this kind of repeat sign. Okay, so we want to click this left repeat over here. Had my cursor been anywhere else, okay, like over here, and I hit the left repeat, a repeat sign would show up here. Now, flat.io is not perfect, and you're probably noticing, what's that repeat sign doing there? Okay, yes, the repeat sign is supposed to technically be after the key signature, but you're seeing that the repeat sign is before the clef over here. Nothing we could do about that, okay? Like I said, the program's not perfect. Next, we want to put a backward repeat or a right-facing repeat after this D whole note here in measure 5. So, move my cursor over to measure 5. Okay, go to my measure tools and then hit the right facing repeat. And there you go. There's your repeat for measure 4 and 5. Okay, after repeats are dynamic symbols. That's fortes, pianos, and then the mezzo forte. So we have forte here, piano here, forte, and mezzo forte. So again, to affect what you want to change, you got to move the teardrop cursor to the measure or the note that you want to change. So here is D. Okay, you need to put a forte underneath this note. So move the cursor here, go to the dynamic tools, and if we want a forte, we just press F here. Okay. Now what you could have done, okay, is if you notice here that there's a forte with a 6, okay, set your cursor in the right spot. You're in the dynamics tool. All right, you could press the number 6 on your computer keyboard, All right, now press the 6 that's between the letters T and Y of your keyboard. Don't use the number pad, okay? I don't want to waste time showing you what happens there, but don't use the number pad. The last time I did that, I really messed something up. So again, the cursor, the teardrop cursor is in the right spot. My dynamics menu or tools are selected, and if I hit the number 6, there we go, there's forte. Okay, so now you know 2 ways to insert dynamics. The next dynamic is after the repeat sign on the 8th note. It's piano. So I'm going to move the teardrop cursor over here. Okay, you can move the teardrop cursor by going left and right on your arrow keys. Or you can just click on the note and the teardrop cursor moves. So we need to put a piano here. We're in our dynamic tools. Click P for piano. Shortcut key was number 3. All right, measure 7. The first note of measure 7 is forte. So I'm going to click the first note of measure 7 so I can put the cursor here and click on forte. The next measure, this dotted quarter note D. Okay, move the cursor over here. It needs to be mezzo forte. All right, so those are your dynamics. Okay. The next thing we need to put in are crescendos and diminuendos. That's these long hairpin symbols here. Okay, so at measure 6, we have a crescendo. Okay, so I'm gonna highlight the first note of measure 6, put the teardrop cursor here on measure 6, and then I'm gonna hit crescendo over here. So click on dynamic tools and click crescendo. And you'll notice that a crescendo marking has been inserted underneath measure 6. You see these circles here? Those are the handles for the crescendo. So if, let's say, you want to make the crescendo a little shorter, click the handle, the circle here, and just drag left to right. And you can do a half a measure crescendo or a full measure crescendo. Okay. Let's say you want the crescendo to start later, like right here. Just grab that circle, that handle. Okay, move it left to right. Let's see. We have a diminuendo or decrescendo here in measure 7 after this forte. So I'm going to move my teardrop cursor here. Click on diminuendo. And again, you have the handles, those little circles, to adjust the length or width of the decrescendo marking. Okay. Is that it for? Yeah, that's it. Okay, next is articulations. Okay, now there's a lot of articulations here in the menus. So I'm going to click on articulation. All right, the articulations we want to put in are your staccatos, okay, accents, and then we have some staccatos over here, and fermatas. Fermatas are part of articulations in flat.io. So we're going to do those first. Okay, let's start with staccatos. Okay, so we have staccatos here in measure 9. So I'm going to move my cursor over. I'm actually going to do this. Move my cursor using the arrow keys on my keyboard. Okay, and then my staccato is under display more, and press this. Okay, if I move my cursor, the teardrop cursor, over to the right one note, okay, and then hit staccato again up here, it puts the staccato in. All right, move the cursor over to the right one more, press staccato. Okay, you can also move the cursor over to the right and press the number 1 on your computer keyboard. That's the number 1 above the Q. Don't use number 1 from your keypad. Okay, and there it is. That's staccato. I also have staccatos here in the second measure from the end. Okay, so make sure the cursor is there on that note and then click the staccato. Move the cursor under this F, hit staccato. And then move the cursor underneath the A, hit staccato. Okay? And then over here in measure 10, we have 3 accented notes. So I'm going to move the cursor over here, the teardrop, over here to measure 10, and hit accent. You could have pressed the 6 if you wanted to, but I just like doing it like this. Here's the C that's highlighted, accent, and here's B flat, accent. So those are all the articulations. Oh, and the last note, you can select that. We need to put a fermata on the last note, okay? And the fermata is right here. Okay, because my monitor is not wide enough and I'm trying to have all these windows open, I have this display more. If your monitor is really wide and you widen this whole thing really wide, you'll notice that the display more feature is not there. Okay, so I had to do that to show my staccato markings. All right, so that's all the articulations for right now. The next one is also an articulation according to flat.io, and that's your bow directions. Your bow directions are up here. So under your articulation menu, you have your up bow and your down bow. Okay, so we have a down bow here in measure 1. Let's move the cursor over and click down bow. Measure 2, we have an up bow over here on this E in measure 2. So move the cursor over and click up bow. Measure 3, we have a down bow on this G. Move my cursor over here and click down bow. Measure 4, the first note of measure 4 is an up bow. Move the cursor over here and hit up bow. This D whole note is an up bow. Okay, and then over here after the repeat sign, this 8th note D is a down bow. Okay, don't have any other bow direction markings left. Okay, so that's bow directions. And then last thing we're going to throw in are slurs. Okay, slurs are pretty much the same as the crescendo decrescendo markings. Okay, so again, we want our slur to be here in measure 2, slurring this E to the F. Okay, so move the cursor here because we want the slur to start here, and then hit slur. So go to articulations and then hit slur. By default, flat.io slurs only up to the next note. Okay, if you want to change the length of the slur, like let's say you want to slur more notes, you got to grab the circle here, these little handles, and drag left to right. Okay, and then you can slur more notes. We just need to slur E to the F only in measure 2. We have another slur over here, these 4 quarter notes, G, A, B flat, and C. So move my cursor over to the G because that's where I want my slur to start. Click slur. Like I said, it only slurs by default to the next note. So if I want to slur all 4 of these notes, I grab this circle handle here and drag it all the way to the C. I don't know why the slur doesn't want to go above the notes, kind of like this one over here. I don't know how to fix that. I just don't see how to change that. Anyway, so that's how you slur these 4 quarter notes. Okay, again, you have these handles here, these circles. You click and drag and move the circle over to where you want the slur to end. All right, and then we have some slurs over here. We have some hooked bowing here in measure 9. Okay, so I'm going to go to measure 9 here and then hit slur. Now, don't forget, when you slur, it automatically slurs only to the next note, and that's fine. That's what we want. Okay, and over here, the C sharp to the D. Okay, and that's slurred as well. Okay, oops. And that's that. Okay, we just recreated all of this, okay, from the PDF, and we put it on flat.io. All right, so by this point, you should know how to use all these menus and put all the notes in. Okay, if you make a mistake, don't forget you have the undo button. Okay, If you make a mistake, you can undo. If you use an Apple or a Mac, you can press Apple Z or Command Z. If you have a computer, PC or a Chromebook, you can hit Control Z to undo. So there's that. Okay, the next thing we need to do is we need to save our work. Okay, so we're going to talk about how to save or print your work. So under your document tools, mine are up here already. Okay, let's talk about how to print. Okay, so you're going to click this icon right here, and then you're going to click on Start Printing. Now for my computer, I don't know about yours, but for my computer, I have the option to save it as a PDF or to send it directly to my printer so I can print out sheet music, or save to Google Drive. Okay. I don't know what's going to happen here, but if you want to try that out, go for it. And then if you do save it to Google Drive, share the link with me using my district email address, and then I'll have a copy of your work. Okay, so this is one way to save your work. You can print it, save it as a PDF to your computer, or save it to Google Drive. Then hit cancel. The other way to save your work is to click on this cloud with the down arrow. Okay, is that a cloud? Yeah. Click on this cloud with a down arrow, and then click on printable PDF. Don't worry about these options here. They don't apply to your songs. We don't want to hide time signatures, so don't turn that on. So make sure these are all off, and then click export. And then as you can see, it's saving to my computer right now. Okay, so now that the file is saved to my computer, I can use that file as a file attachment. I can take this file, okay, that should be on your computer, and use and email it as a file attachment. You can take that file and drag it into your Google Drive. So you know of two ways to send this stuff to me. Okay. So that's how you save or print your work. You already know how to send work to me through email, Google Drive, and through Schoology. So you can upload a file through Schoology through your computer. I highly recommend that you use a computer for this. This is not very user-friendly on an iPad or a cell phone. I've tried it, and it's just really, it's not as swift moving as and ergonomic as using a computer. So you can use a laptop, that's fine. But using a tablet or a phone, it's kind of weird. Okay, so that's that. As soon as you save it and send it to me, you're all good. You do need to proofread your work. That's also very important. What a lot of students have problems with when using flat.io or a music notation program is they're not careful, making sure they're not careful with putting the correct amount of beats in the measure. They have wrong notes because maybe they're reading the wrong notes, or they don't read the notes carefully, or they don't input the notes in the right spot. Other things students have a problem with are key signatures and accidentals. Okay, so make sure you're following all those rules. That still applies when you're doing music notation software. Students tend to mess up key signatures and accidentals when doing music electronically. What else? And then the coolest thing, and this is the part that helped me out a lot when I was younger, the coolest thing is the ability to play back your work. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the teardrop cursor, move it to the beginning. Okay, and then we get to play it back. I'm just gonna change the tempo here to 120. Hit save, so it plays a little bit faster. And then hit play. So, like I said, the coolest thing about music notation software is the ability to play back the stuff that you put on the software. And you can use that, you can use this ability, this playback ability, to help you practice. So let's say this was some actual sheet music that was given to you in orchestra class, all right, and you needed to practice this. What you can do is you can slow this down, okay, slow this way down and practice along with it. This even has a metronome feature. Turn the metronome on. Hit play. Okay, turn the metronome off. So you have the ability to practice along with something, okay, kind of like karaoke. And I remember when I think I was in junior high, I had a computer. It was a really old computer. It wasn't even Windows 95 yet. I think it was Windows 3.11. All right. And we had that computer connected to our electric piano. And I was able to put the notes in using my piano. I was also able to do this as well, put the notes in manually in the staff. But I remember when I didn't have my private teacher around, I remember plugging the notes in from my band music into software like this and playing it back and figuring out how to play specific rhythms that I would get confused with or get lost with. So this really helped me a lot with my sight reading, my attention to detail, and all that stuff. So I really, really like music notation software. Good thing about this is that it's free, and because it's free, there are some limitations. For example, like some stuff does not look aesthetically pleasing. Like this slur right here needs to be on the top. The repeat sign like this here at measure 4, the repeat sign needs to be after the key signature. What else? But other than that, oh yeah, and if in fermatas, it doesn't have the fermata thing down yet. Okay, so that can get a little bit weird and glitchy. What else? That's basically it. Okay, so this is a homework assignment. You're going to recreate this on your own computer, and you're going to send it back to me. The title of the assignment is your name, and you're going to email me this PDF. Now, because you guys have the free version, when you print it, it's probably going to say something like you are printed using the free version of flat. It's going to have some sort of watermark or extra stuff saying that you're using a free version, and that's fine. I don't care. In the free version, I believe you're limited to only 15 saves or 15 files. So it's really important that you save your work frequently. You save your work so that, if you run out of space, you can you can export your work, and if you want to work on that work again, you can import it through here. All right. So that's that. I hope a lot of you guys take some sheet music of your own. Okay, like take some really difficult stuff, plug the notes in and the rhythms in, and play it back and hear how it's supposed to go. All right. So if you have any questions, if you're one of my students and you have any questions, make sure you email me or send me a Schoology message. If you're not one of my students, you're welcome to leave a comment down below or a question, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. And that's that. Okay, so good luck, happy practicing. I hope you guys improve a lot using this kind of software, and don't forget to email me your assignment.